What's going on, y'all? Happy Wellness Wednesday. Welcome to another live with me, your host, Fallon Lopez, RN BSN, certified health and wellness coach, and host of the Nurse Wellness community. So every Wednesday, I come live to you and I bring a special guest to help motivate us, to help push us forward in our health and wellness journey. And of course, I want to bring people that are going to pour into our lives, that are going to give us new perspectives. And tonight, I have another special guest as well. So tonight, I get to bring on Laney Minter. She is a BSN RN BC and host of the Sips and Scrubs podcast. And she just launched her podcast. So she's going to tell us more about that. We're going to find out more about her, all of the things that she's doing with the podcast, and how she, really owned and created this platform for nurses. Like we definitely need these open spaces and places to connect. So I'm really super excited about this conversation. Laney and I met online a while ago, and I've just admired how she's just grown and just putting herself out there and sharing her story. Like I said, us nurses, our voices are powerful and we should be inspiring and, really motivating each other and sharing our point of view. Our voices matter, and Laney is doing just that with her new podcast. I can't wait to bring her on. Hey!
Hey, everyone.
I'm so glad you're here. Nurse Laney is in the building, y'all. How are you?
Period. Yeah, I'm good.
And the crazy thing is you're from Houston too.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was like, when we met online, I didn't know like where you were located. And I thought it was, I was like, I don't know if this is weird meeting people online. I don't really do this. But then to find out we were like based in the same area, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like you're close. I like that.
Yeah, it made it so not like weird, like, oh. Okay.
Right. Like, okay, she's an actual person. And then even more recently, when we found out we knew like similar people, I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Like, I guess
that's crazy. It's a small world. You never know who you're going to connect with. And working in the medical field, like we should, be networking and, so that's really important.
I've had several people come back around like in the medical field where they're like, I've met them before, like in high school, or we went to the same high school and I didn't know it. I've had it happen a couple of times. We went to the same high school. I didn't know it. We met back later. And then I've had it where I met someone again, like from nursing school, and then we worked together. It's funny how everything comes back around.
Yeah, the medical field is like, it's big, especially here in Houston, but like there's so many people that work in it that you're going to work closely with.
Right.
So like, you never know, plant your garden, grow your garden, nurture your relationships. You never know.
Yeah, definitely.
Where you'll see them again, for sure. All right, Miss Laney. She is the host of Sips and Scrubs. So we're going to talk more about that. But before we get into all of that, I want to know about you. Tell us more about Laney. What got you into nursing, and what is your dream job as a nurse? So a two-parter.
Okay. So I feel like it's kind of funny, like how I got into nursing, because I just kind of fell into it. This is not what I wanted to do initially. I actually thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. That's funny because none of that turned out. I'm not a doctor and I don't work with kids. So I'm like, I don't know, like we started off here and ended up somewhere else. But initially I was like majoring in biology at Baylor University, and I was going to become a pediatrician. And then I think after the first year, because my mom kept trying to tell me about nursing, and I'm like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, she's my mom. Like, I'm just like, I don't think I want to do that. But the more I explored, like, what I wanted to get out of, like, my career and the lifestyle I wanted to live, it more so matched that of a nurse. Like, I wanted to be hands-on with the patient, which doctors don't really get to do because there's, they have so many patients. I wanted to spend time with my patients. And then I didn't want to be in school for a very long time. I wanted like a lot of free time too, like flexibility and stuff like that. So the more things that I valued seemed to align with more so like what a nurse did. So that's kind of how I fell into nursing, which worked out perfectly fine for me because I always knew I wanted to do something like in the medical field. So I wasn't like in disarray when I had to switch paths. And then being a biology major, a lot of those courses, were like the same. So that's kind of how I got into nursing. And even like, so I didn't have a lot of background knowledge about it, which is one of the reasons why I started doing my platform and stuff like that, because I had no clue what a nurse did, what it all entailed, and that there were so many different avenues of being a nurse. So that's why I said I kind of fell into it, because a lot of my views and like what I wanted fell in like matched that of a nurse, but I didn't know like the entirety of what they did. So I kind of looked out really that it worked out the way it did because I really love what I do. As far as my dream job, I don't know because like I said, I didn't really plan it all. I just was my mission in nurse school was to get out. And then once I got out, I was like, we'll figure it out from here. So right now I'm a float pool nurse and I like doing that. So I think I'll be doing that for a while. And then after that, we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah. Taking it a day at a time, right? Like,
yeah, my favorite thing. Yeah.
Yes. And I could see that really reflected in you and everything you just said. You know, I hear you basically like saying how flexible, like I could really see that you've always been pretty flexible, even with how your career developed. Like, okay, I wanted to do pediatrician, but you know what? Let me be honest. Is this really what I want? And then being able to like pivot a little and like, okay, this is actually what I want. So I just hear you saying like being really flexible and like, okay, this is where I'm going to go and it's okay. And still creating your life how you want it to be. And nursing is amazing. Like you can definitely do that, right?
Yeah, I definitely loved it because then I was like, oh, since there's so many things I could do, it's like I could do everything. Like I could do this one day, do this for a couple of years, go do this. I like that because I get bored very easily as well. So that works out really well for me.
You can even get into pediatrics if you wanted to, like your original. Have you ever thought about that?
I'm done with kids. No, you see, because then I was like, maybe I'll be a pediatric nurse. And then I did the clinicals and I was like, yeah, no.
Right now I work in a pediatric clinic and it is so nerve-wracking. Like
I was like, I'm too passionate about kids and seeing them in certain states. I think I wouldn't be able to handle the emotional toll that comes along with it. Because I think sometimes too, people don't think about that as well. Like, I had to think, dealing with patient deaths, dealing with sick kids. Like, I don't know, like how well I'd be able to handle that and then separate myself from that, going home and things like that. And I don't think people think about that because it's just like, I like this. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know, you might want to rethink if you like a little too much because it might take a mental toll on you. So that's why I didn't go for it with that. Cause I was like, if I see some kid being mistreated or something like that, like I might lose my job that day. So I was like, yeah, let's do adults. I can remain a little bit neutral and have a little bit more perspective when it comes to them.
That's such an interesting perspective. Like, I don't think we realize that sometimes. Like, in nursing school, a majority of my class wanted to be, pediatric nurse and OB nurse. The thought of bringing, I think it was just the excitement, the thought of just bringing in new life and being a part of this new, this new life, this whole new thing is exciting. No, it definitely is. But I like the part where you're like, okay, but if you're liking this too much, maybe that's a sign.
Yeah, it could be damaging in the opposite direction. So I try to be like very cognizant of my decisions before I get into them because I don't want to get into it and then be faced with something and then I'm like, dang, I didn't think about this. So I try to think like of different possibilities beforehand. And I don't think I could handle it, but do I want to handle it? That's another thing too.
So how did you get to this place where you're, very like thinking things through, like especially in your career and being really flexible? Like how did you develop those skills, like personally in your life, like as a new nurse? Because not everybody has those right off the bat, being flexible, being able to adapt, being able to like critically think. Was it nursing school or was it just like life or was it, getting in the real world? I
think, and it's funny that you say flexible because my husband probably would he'd be like, she is not flexible. But
tell us more.
It's like certain things. And I think before, like I used to have things planned out to a T, and actually I still really do plan a lot of things and I think a lot. But as far as life goes, like with school and college, like it didn't go to my plan and how I thought things would pan out. So I think from there, I learned how to be a little bit more flexible and then learn like, okay, just because it didn't work out how I thought it did or it worked out differently, it's still okay and it's still good. So I think that's where I got that from. And then I was able to learn and to adjust through those processes. So I think it actually began before nursing school when it first started, like when I was like, okay, I'm not going to major in biology anymore. I'm going to do this. And then so I was like at a 4-year university. Then I went to a community college. So it's just like that, those changes I had to learn to deal with it, because I just thought I was going to go to Baylor and finish everything there. And that's just not how it turned out. So I think from there, it's where I kind of learned like, okay, this is different, but it's still fine. And I just took that with me.
It's just so crazy how life is, you know, like how you think it's going to turn out. Like how you said you were going to you had it planned out to the T. Because I hear you saying, you know, you think it through, like you're very, like, it sounds like you're strategic, like you think about all the different scenarios that are going to happen. But then, you know, you're able to make decisions and move around and still pivot. Like, it's just crazy how life just develops you or molds you into that type of person. So that's awesome that you're developing that now. And I think for me personally, nursing,
I was going to say nursing made it even easier because you don't have a choice. Patients are not going to stay the same. You know, new orders are going to come in every other hour, whatever. Like nothing stays the same and it's not predictable. You can't predict somebody's health failing at that moment. So it's like you don't have a choice but to be flexible. So I think I refined that skill there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And to have like those really strong boundaries too, as an individual, like knowing your limits, like, okay, I'm going to be flexible. I'm going to be able to move around and pivot and do all these things, but at the same time, knowing my boundaries. So it's like this game we play, like just in nursing.
It's very odd. You know? Yeah, it is. It's a balancing act.
It is. I like to say our work-life flow, like the way that we flow into things, like, you know, because you can't really keep a perfect balance all the time because it's not just going to be like one or the other, you know, this balancing act. You kind of have to go with the flow of things and make the best out of it and know like you're doing your best with what you got. That's mine.
One day at a time.
Keep it moving. Exactly. And just keep going. Like, I love that. So let's transition into like getting ready for work as we're talking about nursing and, you know, the way we are, you know, how we've learned, how we've adapted in nursing life. I want to hear like a day in the life. Like you share a lot of that on your YouTube as well, y'all. If you're not a part of Laney's YouTube, her podcast, make sure you go follow, make sure you go like and support. She has a bunch of great videos where she shows a day in the life as a nurse and doing all the things and preparing for work and even having a a lot of fun too. I saw those too.
Yeah.
Nurses have fun too.
So we definitely do. We know how to party, that's for sure. I always say that because we work so hard, like that's why we party so hard. Because I feel like we appreciate life because we see like different directions of where it can go and where it can end up. I feel like sometimes, especially since we're like younger, people they don't fathom like life has an end, or like you could still be living and things could go another way. So I feel like we kind of have an appreciation for that and we live our life with gratitude because we get to see how other people are, you know, basically. 100%. But I love my vlogs. Yeah. Definitely follow me on YouTube if you guys don't already. I like doing them because like I said, before nursing, I didn't know anything like, what does that look like in real life? Like, I'm like, okay. Yeah. I'm like, what do they do? I had no clue what nurses really did. I really thought they were, I probably likened them to like PCAs, and I didn't. Even then, I'm still just kind of like, I don't know what else they do. Like, I had no clue. So I like to show those to give people perspective and to see like the different dimensions of being a nurse and what we go through. And I'll be on there and I'll rant about how somebody got on my nerves. And that's real too. Like, we love what we do, but some stuff still can annoy us, and that's fine. Yeah, so I like to definitely display that just so people can see. I try to be careful though, because I'm like, I don't want people to take this out of context. So
no, but that's real.
That's the purpose of it, is just so that people can see and have an idea before, like maybe before you even get into nursing school or decide that's something you want to do, at least you have an idea of like what it's going to look like in the end.
That's so like 10 plus years ago when I started nursing school, we had none of that. Like, I had no clue what I was getting into. And if I would have had a blog or something like where I could see a real person doing it, maybe it wouldn't have been such a shock to my system, because when I got in that thing, when I got to my first job at a LTAC, at a long-term care facility, I had like 20 patients to myself. And they were like, okay, you're on your own after 6 weeks.
You're like, what?
I'm like, this is what it is. Like, I'm in charge of all these patients. Everybody's looking at me. What if somebody falls? Like, and then like, I was just in charge. It was mind blowing. And then when people started, when I started to transition into as an RN, that was crazy to me too. Like, it was two separate worlds. So just like, the crazy life of a nurse. But
right. And then also aside from that, even with other nurses, like we live in our own unit. So it's like, okay, I don't know what that person's doing over there. Like, what is it like being, especially since I'm on with the float pool, I go on different units. Each unit is different. Every hospital is different. So it kind of gives you something to compare it to, like, oh, is this just my job or is this just my unit? Or is it like this for all nurses? Like, I know for me, I didn't know until I started moving around and going to different units and things like that. And I'm like, oh, that's what y'all do over there? Okay, that's not what we do. Or those are the type of patients you have. What do y'all do about this? So it kind of just shines a light on that as well.
Yeah, and you learn all these different things and different perspectives. Like you said, like some nurses may do this a certain way. I think it's just important to not only see like the way tasks flow, the way, but like you said, how you handle certain things, how other nurses are doing it. Like it's going to inspire and give people better perspectives on nursing, especially if they're just starting out. Yeah, for sure. So what are your top 3 things that you take to work with you and why? I just want to know what's in your backpack or purse. Are you a backpack or a purse?
Oh no, I'm a backpack person.
Girl, backpack girl
on my shoulder.
Backpack girl here too.
Yo, I got my backpack. I don't do the purse. But
I gotta have my snacks. I gotta have my water bottle.
See, that's what it is. I'm like I pack a lot, especially since I'm with float pool now. Like I got my food on.
You gotta be prepared.
Y'all don't have a locker, so I'm like I have to carry everything with me every time. So I was thinking about this,
or maybe 5 things.
I know 3 for sure.
Okay.
3 for sure. 1 is for my headphones. Like when I'm charting, I'm in my zone. I pop one in. Some people are against this, but I see the doctors do it, so I'd be like, I'm okay.
And what are you listening to? I'm
listening to podcasts. I'm listening to music, whatever. It helps me because it gives me like relieve stress. It's a stress reliever basically. And it kind of like displaces my mind for a little bit so I can like focus on whatever I'm doing in front of me, which is usually charting. And then, when I rounding or whatever, I take them out. But it gives me like, kind of like take my mind away things just for a little bit. And I can just be like, okay, I'm just doing this right now. So I love my headphones. So if I leave them, I'm sad. I haven't left them yet. That's how critical they are.
They are.
Next.
And then you can hide it with your hair.
Yeah. But I just be like, whatever.
We didn't tell nobody. I
be like, the doctors got theirs in. They over here. I see y'all on y'all phone. I see everybody doing. I'm like, okay, it should not be a problem for me. All right. That's how I feel about it.
You work in float pool, so that's how you get away with it.
I'm like, that's how I feel about it. I'm like, look, you gonna argue with me, argue with the doctor too. That's how I feel. Keep the same energy. The next thing I like is my scissors. People always ask me for my scissors at work. I use those things for everything. Open up pills, like I'm struggling to open. Sometimes like they're like double layered. And I'm like, okay, it's taking too long for me to get out. I'll just cut it. IV bags, cut them open. We cut them open. Wound dressings, like when they tie them like really tight. I use those scissors for everything. Of course, I clean them in between, but I just have to throw that out there.
I was thinking it. I was about to
say. Cleaning in between. Armbands, and then people always are using my scissors. They're always like, "Oh, does somebody have scissors?" And I'm just always the one here. So scissors is my second one, and I had a third one, but now I'm trying to remember what I said it was. I can't remember. Oh, I remember. It was my water jug.
Hey,
it's my water. I need my water. My mouth be dry by the end of the shift from talking to so many people. I need my water.
Yeah, I feel like
that's my top 3 for sure.
Yeah, if I don't have my water, no, it's not a good.
And then I know you can use little plastic cups, but it just doesn't hit the same. And you always have to keep walking and try to fill it up. By that time, I'm like, I forgot what I came here to do. Now I'm doing something else. So I like to have my water on me.
Yeah. So a podcast, listening to a podcast, something for your mind. And then for the actual work, you got your scissors. And then for your body, you got your water. I love how it's
that's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, showing the different dimensions of you and where you're at and how you would prepare for a day. Like if you could, your top 3 things, it says a lot about a person, what she's thinking about. She's like, I need something for my mind. I need to make sure I'm able to perform and get to my job, get to the pills, get to those wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure I'm hydrated. I see you, sis. I see you. I like that. I like that. So let's talk more about your podcast. And what is it called again? It launched.
Sips
and when
with
did it launch?
Scrubs. Yeah, it launched last Monday. So I think that was August the 1st. Yes, today's Wednesday. Okay, yeah, it was August the 1st. So just
How
launched the first
exciting.
episode. Yeah, so it's so
Congratulations.
fun. I actually was kind of doing something similar to it before on my YouTube. It was called Talk Nurse With Me. I just didn't know what I wanted to call it yet. I wanted a catchy name, but I'm not really good with those. But I was kind of experimenting, and it was more like a stress reliever again. I was just like talking about different things that I've went through or different things I didn't know before becoming a nurse, talking to different people about their nursing experiences. So it kind of exposed me as well to some of the other stuff that other people go through, because like I said, sometimes we just don't know. We don't work like in the same areas. So it's just different. And so I was just doing it because it was fun. And then I was like, do I want to take this a little bit more seriously? And I was like, yeah. So then that's how I came up with Sips with Scrubs. And then so now we're getting a little bit more formal about it, but it's still kicks and giggles and fun. So we talk a lot on there, like I said, about different specialties, just exposing people to what it actually looks like I say, in real life, and not like in Cleck's world, or like what does, like you said, a day in a life actually look like? What do you do with your day? What is your patient population about? How do you feel about what you do? What's the hardest part of your job? Like just learning more about the specialty. And then we also have like topical episodes. Like we did burnout, which will be coming out in September. How do we deal with burnout? How do we prevent ourselves from becoming burnt out again? Just different stuff that we actually go through as a nurse that they might not have taught you in nursing school, because nursing school is just like the science behind it all, but there's more to it than just that. So I really enjoy doing it. I wish I would have had it when I was younger.
For sure. One of my favorite quotes that I've been like thinking about recently is, be the woman you would have wanted to look up to, And I think for me, that has like really shifted my mindset to, okay, I have something to give. I have something to offer others behind me. And for me, nursing is where my heart's at, because I see how nurses, we're so like, we're these integral parts of healthcare, right? But sometimes
we're the backbone.
Exactly. And sometimes we don't walk in that. A lot of times we don't. And then when we're starting, it's hard to see that big picture view, especially when you don't have any idea what you're getting into.
Exactly.
Or you thought it was like the NCLEX world. That's how it was sold to you. That's how it was packaged to you in the classroom. And then boom, real life. Here you go.
Right.
And so
another thing we talk about on there too is like, I tell my different like nursing school stories, like stuff I went through in nursing school or stuff I went through like as a nurse on the floor, and kind of give it from like start to finish, because my vlogs kind of do that, but like sometimes you don't have to get to see like all the little things I did or what I went through. So sometimes I talk about like different patients, like scenarios that I've encountered, or like conflicts I've had with like other nurses or doctors, or and how I got through that and what happened. So that's another thing we talk about on there too. They're all kind of sprinkled in. So it's very wide ranged.
Yeah. I mean, giving nurses that model, like the role model to like, okay, what can I expect? How can I really get through this thing? How can I survive? I think that's really like an overall, like what I hear from you from the Sips and Scrubs. I love that you're doing that. And so tell me about the name, like at the end of our podcast, y'all. Definitely me and Lanicia, we did that. I said your whole name, Lanicia, not just Laney, Lanicia. We did an episode together. So make sure y'all go check that out. And I loved at the end where you said, what do you sip to in nursing, and what do you want to scrub? I think
yeah, I like that too. Yeah. I thought about that hard, and I was like, this is gonna come off. I was like, am I gonna like that? And I'm like, yeah. So I like it because it's kind of like releasing negative energy, and then we end it with the sip to like remember why we came here. Because I don't want it to be like negative, and I feel like sometimes I might talk about a lot of different things that might be perceived as negative, and that's only because it's mostly sold to us as positive. It's not like another side to it. Like what does that look like in, like I said, in real life? What does that look like in real life? It's just like, oh, you'll help this person get back to health again, or oh, this little old lady, you're gonna help her, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that's nice, but I'm like, I didn't know about the other side of it. Like, how do I handle that? And how do I get through that? So scrubbing is basically essentially scrubbing the stuff that we don't like about the healthcare field. It's a lot that I feel like could be improved on, or that can be done better. And so it's just kind of like acknowledging that part of it, and maybe like, what can we do to address that to make it better going forward? And then sipping to remember why we started in the first place. Like, what about this job keeps us fulfilled, and why do we keep coming back and doing this every day? So I really like that, because it's like the balance there. And then I just like ending things positively. So I like to sip.
That's real. See, because nurses, we get to a place. I'm not going to say we, I'm going to say me. Because we get to the ending point. We get to the point where we hold back so much. I have held back so much, things that I want to speak up on, things that I don't like, to where we get to this point. It's like everything that comes out is negative about nursing. And there is a lot that's negative.
Yeah.
There is also a lot of good. And I love that not only you give the place for these, conversations, these tough conversations about tough things that we're dealing with, but you're also giving that space for us to, like, just end it on a good note. Like, why did you come into nursing? What brought your heart to this? Remember that. And how can we be more strategic? How can we find a solution to these problems? We can be the solution. So I love that you're creating that space and that environment for nurses.
Yeah, and I'm very like a solution-based person. I'm like, okay, and I can identify problems really quick. Like, it's kind of funny. I don't know if this is a good skill necessarily. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is what's wrong with this. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Okay, so how can we fix this? Let's think. Let's problem solve. I'm always trying to like, okay, we could change that. Like, it doesn't have to be like this. Just because it's been like this doesn't mean I have to continue to be like this. If we all see it's a problem, why not make it better? I don't understand. Like, so I'm very vocal.
Yeah.
Which has gotten me in trouble sometimes. Well, to other people, I'm fine. I'm like, I don't have any regrets, so I'm good. But I'm more like, okay, let's do something about this. It's not a problem with stuff like changing. It's like, that's the medical field. It's always evolving. It's part of the reason why I like it so much. It's not stagnant. Something new is always happening. So I just like that.
No, I agree. And, solutions, and, being, strategic and planning and try to problem solve, that's part of our, learning process. But I think what I've had to learn is not everybody's ready. No, like, I'm not really a good person to vent to all the time. I got to remember, like, okay, you just want to vent. I got you. Just
yeah.
What do you need
some
in
people
this
are
moment?
like that.
And so I've had to be vocal about that. I'm like, okay, so what is it that you want me to do in this moment? Like, if a coworker or my sister or my family comes to me, because I want to, I'm like, kind of like you, I kind of like see the problem, the issue. I'm like, okay, let's work it out. Let's go back to positive. I want to hurry up and go back to the positive, because there's a will. Where there's a will, there's a way. We can make it, like, I'm that type of person. But not everybody.
Did I ever ask you your sign?
No.
What is your sign?
I'm a Capricorn.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm an Aries. I'm very impatient. It's true. Most of the things they say about Aries is me.
Is it? I don't really know that much.
Some of the good and the bad. I'm very impatient, and they do say we get bored very easily. So I'm kind of like, okay, let's skip some of this part and let's just get to the end.
Through the movie, you're watching the movie and you're like, let's just go to the end.
Like, all right, come on, let's speed this up. Like, what's the point? Come on.
And I feel like in nursing, I've had to learn a lot of patience. Like,
yes, you don't have a choice. So it's good for me too, because I need to learn patience, but I don't like it though.
The things that are challenging for us, the things that we don't like, are the things that I have learned that we need sometimes.
I know I need it.
And nursing will definitely challenge you and stretch you in that. So that's maybe a way that we can like transition into the next question. So tell us about a time that you were able to glow and grow through a tough situation at work. Tell us about any aha moments and what you learned from that situation. But I can back up a little bit if you need me to like just go through like, what do I mean exactly by glowing and growing? You know, growing can be uncomfortable. You know, you got to learn things like the patience, you know, being kind, you know, being able to wait for people and, you know, being able to not get offended all the time or taking things personally. I'm talking about myself. Being able to collaborate with other people to see, you know, other people's point of view. You know, you learn so much in nursing. And
no,
that
you really
can
do.
stretch you, right? That can stretch you so much and it's uncomfortable. But how do you, okay, even through the uncomfortableness, how do you end up still glowing through it? Like, okay, being easy on myself because I'm learning, you know, how do you end up still, you know, making it out on the other side, not all beat up and tumbled and down to the ground, you know, like feeling at your lowest? How do you still glow through it?
I was trying to think of a specific example. I've been through so much.
Let's be honest.
I've been through a lot.
Like it could have took you out, right? Like the situation could have took you out, but instead you found another way to like
or make you have like a negative attitude about stuff. I was really trying to think because I've been through a lot of different experiences where I know I could probably tell a story, but I can't think of anything right now.
No,
but
you're like, come back to me about that. Like,
I don't even know if it's going to pop back up because it's just like all the thoughts are running together. I've been through a lot of different things with, like I said, with nurses. I could probably give you this story that I'm thinking of because, like I said, I've always been vocal. Like, I think I was just born that way. But a specific example I can think of off the top of my head is that one time I had this patient that was a DNR, and I told this story before on my YouTube. But they were a DNR and the patient didn't look good to me. This is when I was like a newer nurse. I think I was like a year or 2 years. I can't remember, one of those. But they didn't look good to me. I don't know. Over time, I think you just get some type of like sixth sense as a nurse where you feel like something's not right, like that gut instinct they tell you to follow. Well, she didn't look good to me, and her sister was at the bedside, and she was kind of telling me like she hasn't like been like this previously, like earlier in the day. Like this is different for her. And I'm just like, okay, at this time I was working nights. So I called the doctor and I was like, hey, this is going on with this patient. And I was just like, oh, wait, no, actually, she wasn't DNR yet. They were trying to make her DNR. That's what it was. Yeah, she was still full coat. That was the problem.
Does not sound good, right?
That was the problem. She was full coat. The sister was medical power of attorney. And she was saying that if she deteriorated more, she knew her sister wouldn't want to like be in a position where she's like in a vegetative state or being her life is being continued by machines. So that was what the problem was. She wanted her to be DNR, and it's like the middle of night and she doesn't look well. So I'm like calling the doctor and he's kind of like fussing at me like, what's going on with her? Like, she looked fine when I ran on her today. And he actually told me, like, what did you do to her? I was like, what did I do? Kind of got me lit because I was like, what do you mean, what did I do? I'm trying to call for her. Like, what did I do to her? He's like, yeah, she was just fine when I just saw her. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm telling you right now that she's not. And I was like, I have a sister right here next to me. She's a medical power of attorney, and she's saying that they want her to become DNR. So I had the sister. Sometimes you have to hold people accountable. And I had the sister standing there like next to me so she could hear like what he was saying so she can like advocate for her sister too. Cause I'm like, I'm doing it too. But you know, sometimes having a patient or the family member talk to them as well kind of gives them that extra push. So I said, hey, do you want to talk to her? I gave her the phone and let him talk to her. At the end of the day, he still didn't want to do it. So what I ended up doing was calling another doctor that was consulted on the case. And he actually put the order in for me. And then lo and behold, like 4 hours later, she transitioned. So I was so glad that I had did that because I can't imagine not only for the sister, but for me too, having to code her and knowing that they wanted her to be DNR, but that wasn't in place. That could be kind of like traumatizing, like having to do it because it's legal, but you know that that's not really what they want. And then even for her, like watching me having to do that when she like, that's not what I want, or that's not what she would have wanted and things of that nature. So I had to, you know, be persistent with that. And I think if I had let it go, because I actually, like I said, I had to call another doctor and get the order. If I would have just been like, well, that's just what the doctor said, and now there's nothing else I could do about it, it kind of, you know, would have resulted a lot differently, whereas she got to like transition the way that she wanted to. So I think that's a good example of the glowing and growing, because I learned I don't really stop, I don't feel like, but I learned how to be persistent and like to keep like really advocate for my patient to get them what they needed. So I like that story sometimes to tell.
I like that one too. That sounds like
it was very intense.
it
Like
could
I
have
was like
been. Yeah.
actually kind of like yelling at him on the phone. Like I was still professional and I wasn't disrespectful. So it wasn't like I said like anything like that, because there's a way to do it. It's kind of very a fine line when your emotions start getting involved on how to be professional still when it's like a high stress situation like that. But I was just like, I was very adamant, like, no, the sister is here. She's the medical power of attorney. These are the rights. Like, I was like, no.
Yeah.
So I was glad I stuck with it, because my charge actually was just kind of like, well, that like she was kind of like very hands off in the situation. Like she didn't aid me at all. I had to kind of really take the initiative with that one.
Ooh, that's what I was just about to ask. I was about
she didn't want
say,
it. My charge nurse didn't want no
would...
parts of that. I was like, can you talk to him? And she was like, no, I don't want to upset him. So you have those nurses too? But I did what I had to do.
Look, that could have took you out, not like in a way like you were going to get in trouble, but like you said, it was a high stress situation. And if you, not being, not saying that you weren't, but as a new nurse, or a newer nurse, not being as secure in yourself, in your education and your skills, that could have took you out. Like, am I a good nurse? Like, did I do that right? So how did you...
like you said, have regrets, because even then I was kind of just I'm like, no, I can't let this go. I know I wouldn't be well with myself if I was really coding her and having full knowledge that that's not what they wanted me to do. Like I would feel some type of way. I would be like unsettled in my spirit. So I was like, I can't let this go, like for them and for me. So I was just like, no, we're going to get this done. I don't care who I got to call.
And being the main caregiver, like, everything. So it's like, why wouldn't your opinion be valid? Valid. Like, why? But sometimes you gotta...
perspectives, like you said, like you could feel invalidated. Like, okay, oh, maybe she's not, maybe she's fine. I don't know. After he's like, oh, what did you do to her? That was the thing that got me when he said that. Yeah, what did you do to her? I was like, what did I do to her? But he was talking to the wrong person that day. It just made me more mad. But for someone else, it could have went another way. Like, okay, did I do that? Like, she was fine before. What happened? What happened?
So how do you... I just want to know a little bit more, like, because as a new nurse, as you're building your skills, as you're, finding out who you are as a nurse, who you are as a person, like, how do you say, like, you would become that bold? Like, what brought you to that point to where you're like, no? How did you get that confidence? Like, what was that was like, no, I know definitely the situation, but like, was it something about you that you had to know about yourself? Like, how did you get there?
I really think it's a combination, because like I said, I've always been vocal, and I kind of got this from my mom in the aspect. It's like certain things that we're just kind of like, if we feel like something's not right, like we can't just like not do anything about it. Like it's a
trusting your gut.
It's like, no, I can't just sit back. Like I said, I would have felt unsettled in my spirit. So it's the gut instinct. It's my personality that I already had. It's seeing the family member there in front of me saying these things. Like that's also another motivator as well. So I think it was just a combination. And then I'm looking at her. And like I said, after you've seen enough people, you could tell when someone doesn't look well. And then after that, like her vitals was starting to drop and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, like I had the ICU doctor come look at her. And he couldn't actually write the DNR order. He said only the doctor that was on the case could do it, which is why he ended up getting called in the first place. So I had like supporting people. Like the sister was telling me, like, no, she didn't look like this before. And the ICU doctor saying like, yeah, she doesn't like, it's like, she doesn't think it's going to end well either. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't think so either. So it's kind of like I had that backup there too, to be like, no, like we need to get this in place before something happens.
Yeah, no, definitely trusting your gut, like looking at what you have before you, like, okay, these are the facts. Like, I just also hear you like being really grounded in yourself, like knowing like, okay, I I have the skills, I have the abilities, I can interpret this data that I'm getting from the sister, from the patient. I'm coming to this conclusion. Like, you kind of diagnose the patient before you get to the doctor. You kind of already know. But it takes some time to kind of develop that confidence to get to that point to where you're like really grounded in yourself. You're really like assured and like, okay, what I'm seeing is true. Like nobody's going to tell me anything else. Like you just have to like
and I
own
always
it.
err on the side of caution anyway, because it's somebody's life at the end of the day. So I always would rather do the most than not do anything at all. Like had nothing happen to her 4 hours later and we just got the DNR order. Like, okay, whatever. Like that's what she wants to be. Maybe somewhere down the line, like it's already in place, But I always try to do everything. Like, even if my patients feel some type of way about something, and I'm like, I think you're fine. I always just go ahead and do whatever they think needs to be done. And if all the tests come back negative, then so be it. But I mean, it's better always to be safe than sorry in my book. So I just be like, nah, let's go through it. Let's go.
All right, let's just make it happen. Especially if your gut is telling you like, okay, something is not right, something needs to happen, something needs to change, and that's your gut talking to you. That's you, you're listen to that voice. And I think one of the ways that we nurture that voice and grow that voice and really like tap into our gut instinct is definitely by becoming more self-aware, becoming more aware of like what you need and how you act in certain situations, and just becoming more aware, like, okay, this is what's going on. Because when you're aware about what's going on with you, you can then be aware of others. And like,
I agree with that. Yeah.
This is how they move. This is how they're acting. It's different, because like you have these things going on with you, like you're very aware. But I feel like self-care is so important, like in that as well, in our being self-aware and everything like that. So I don't know if this is a good transition, but like what is your self-care like? Like, what does self-care mean to you and how do you practice it in your everyday life?
Well, we talk about this too, kind of on my podcast with the whole self-care versus self-indulgence.
I'm turning it on you.
Yeah, I'm
like, mean to you?
I'm like, I think it really just whatever practices that you put in place to make yourself feel at peace, I think is what it means to me. So it's funny because you had commented on the car wash when I did that little mini vlog on my reel. And I did it again today. And I was like, why do I like this car wash so much? Sometimes it's not even stuff that's like being done to you, like massages or anything like that. It's just, to me, sometimes it's just like stuff I know that brings me peace. So that's what self-care means to me. And I just kind of, like you said, being aware of different things and how things make you feel and what do you feel like after experiencing certain things. So you could kind of keep those into rotation to kind of keep you in that realm of peace to me. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah. And the car wash, that's another level. Like
I was like, when did this become a thing? Like, I was like, I like this. And then seeing all the different colors and stuff, like go down it. I'm like, I don't know. It's weird, but I like this.
I think it's the fact that that your car is taken care of. Like it's clean, it looks good. It's something that you worked hard for. For me personally, like I worked hard for my car. Like I paid my car off. Like I want to take care of it. And right now it's not taken care of, y'all. It ain't taken care of. So it's something in my mind that I need to do to bring me peace. And so I know how you feel like when you take care of your environment, the things that are in your surrounding, your house.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like showing like gratitude for stuff, like you worked hard for stuff and like being thankful for the things that you were blessed with because you didn't have to have that. And I think too, for the car, it's kind of like I drive a lot, you do use your car. Like you need that. Like you have to have a vehicle in Texas. It's not an option.
And it got AC. Look, I had a car with no AC for like 3 years in Houston. Like
yes.
I want to take care of my car.
So that, and then, it's just, I think just being like you said, just taking care of the things that you care about, whether it's your material items that you have or like you yourself, you being thankful for the body that you have, because we have to be physically capable to do our job. It'd be impossible without it.
Yeah. And so those things that bring you peace, those things that bring you calm, like you're gonna walk in with that attitude, with that energy to work. You're going to be able to give
it carries
more.
over.
Yeah.
I guess because it's kind of like whatever you have in you comes out. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. Definitely. Well, Lanicia, it has been too real, friend. I love what you're doing, how you're opening all these spaces up, having these tough conversations, how you're sharing your heart, and you're just like out here doing it for kicks and giggles. I love how you say that. But, being real about it, like nursing is like no other, y'all. You may be watching and you may be thinking about getting into nursing. You may be like, okay, what is nursing really about? Like, check out Lanicia's page, check out my page. Like, we have a lot of tools, a lot of things that are going to help push you and motivate you forward and show you the real. Like, not everything is pretty perfect and polished. We're going to give you the stuff that we've been through, but we're also going to give you solutions, because that's what nurses do.
Yeah.
We do that. We talk about the issues, but we also are solution based. So we're never just going to leave you in a hole. Let's get out the hole together. Come on. And so I love incredibly all the work that you're doing, friends. And we're going to drop all your information in the comments so that people can get to know you, to chat with you, and comment and like and subscribe to your page. Any last words before we head on out?
No, just thank you for having me. I had a good time. As always, we have good conversations.
As always. Yes, friends. I cannot wait for our episode to come out. So
that's a good one. Yeah.
And we're definitely going to have you back to hear more about your journey, your self-care, all of those. I feel like there could be a part 2, part 3. I love having people on here where I could just like chat with them, talk with them, share with them.
Yep.
Grow with them. And you're in Houston, so we're going to definitely have to link up.
Yeah. Definitely happening.
But you're in Richmond.
I'm like in the boonies.
You're in the boonies. But I know it's nice out there too. That's another.
I like it too. So see, another little like self-care thing. Like I like all the greenery. Well, I mean, look, I green. I think green's my new color. But, like all the trees that are out here and stuff is not like so city-ish.
Oh, that's where it is. That you winning out there, sis. Yes. I love it. Getting your outdoorsy vibes on. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Awesome. Yes, friends. So we're going to definitely connect, have you back on anytime. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye. Y'all, if you just tuned in, if you're just hopping on, you missed a good one. Lanicia was sharing all of the gems. So make sure you go rewatch, go take a look back, because we shared a lot of gems for nurses, wherever you're at in your journey. We were talking about the real and, how to build this platform, like how to own our voices. And I think it's so important, the work that Laney is doing as a nurse, as, just a influencer out here, just sharing her journey as a nursing professional. We need more voices. We need our voices out there, not just sharing the bad, but also giving solutions. What is it that needs to change, and how are we going to make it happen, y'all? We have the solutions. Like I said, there is some knowledge in this group. There is some knowledgeable people in this group, the nurse wellness community. And I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. Did you enjoy this video? What topics do you want to hear more of? I'm going to take a little bit of a break off for the month of August, maybe have some summer fun, but I will be back in September with much, much more of the nurse wellness community. I can't wait to see you then. Have a good one. Bye.